over how we advance as a society. They want to control our energy production. That, my fellow patriots, is what cap and trade is really all about. In one word, control. All right, now, if I haven't shocked you yet, let me try with this. Keep in mind that one of the fundamental tenets of communism is, and I quote, "The means of production are established by a central authority." The concept of a central authority with the power to control the means of energy production goes against every drop of blood that was shed for this country, starting on a green like this one in Lexington, Massachusetts in 1775. Are you beginning to understand what this legislation is all about? Wait, there's more. The proposed legislation creates new government bureaucracies. My goodness, what a surprise. One of these new bureaucracies will have the power to determine if private property, a home or an office building is, and I quote, energy efficient enough, according to a standard set by a central authority, to be allowed to be sold or transferred. Whether the writers of this legislation intended it or not, this is a direct attack on private property rights and actually allows the government to usurp those private property rights based on some arbitrary standard set by a central authority. Another fundamental tenet of communism is the elimination of private property rights. Can you see now why this legislation is such a threat to liberty? Control the means of energy production. Make private property rights subjective to government scrutiny. Is this the America that so many patriots have bled for? I don't think so. We all want a clean and healthy environment. No one is disputing that. But you need to fully understand what cap and trade really is. Those who want the legislation to become law will argue that it is necessary to encourage Americans to move away from carbon-based fuels to cleaner renewable fuels. But unfortunately, that technology is simply not available. Wind is not the answer because the simple fact is that that efficient wind systems are decades away, and when they come about will only solve a small portion of the problem. Solar is on the same path of wind, a long way from efficiency and still predicted to fall short of solving the problem. Nuclear power generation and its byproduct, hydrogen gas, to power internal combustion engines, is being blocked by partisans. Natural gas solutions to static and mobile needs, also blocked by partisans on a variety of false promises and reasons. Hence, the legislation is going to motivate us all to move away from what works to what? It's all about control. As simple as that. The sharp carbon emission reduction requirements in the proposed legislation are dependent on significant technological innovations, but innovations cannot be brought about by mandate or by rhetoric. They're only brought about by innovation. But even if there was an immediate technological alternative, the legislation is still futile, and here's why. According to Dr. Patrick Michaels, who's associated with the American Association of State Climatologists and a fellow at the Cato Institute, he says if the United States actually achieves what this legislation is asking for, it would result in 1/4 of 1 degree Fahrenheit of quote-unquote prevented warming, a measure that falls far below what normal temperature variations are. Furthermore, China, India are polluting much more than the United States is right now. Hence, the United States would have sacrificed more liberty in exchange for more empty promises by government and more failure. And what about a few more dry numbers for you? What about the immediate economic impact, particularly in the midst of the current financial challenges that citizens, businesses, and all levels of governments are facing today? Those of you who have heard me speak before know I like to use numbers, but the numbers here with cap and trade are just absolutely staggering, and the negative impact of the proposed legislation would be devastating if our economy was strong, but may very well be fatal under current conditions. A study commissioned by the National Association of Manufacturers projects that if this legislation becomes law, by 2014, retail gasoline prices could increase by 50%. That means if you're paying $3 a gallon for gasoline today, with this legislation you would be paying $4.50, and that's not even accounting for higher inflation, which would drive the price higher. An assessment by the Nicholas Institute for Environmental Policy Solutions at Duke University says the impact on gross domestic product would be a reduction of $75 billion in 2015 and as much as $245 billion less GDP a year by 2030. Finally, a name we all know and trust, the Heritage Foundation Center for Data Analysis, predicts that the annual employment loss will be as high as 901,000 jobs lost as early as 2016, with an ongoing loss of 500,000 jobs a year before 2030. Putting it all together, households can expect to spend an extra $1,500 a year for energy, and again, higher with inflation. Now, don't be fooled by what you're hearing in the news about the scaled-down cap-and-trade measure sponsored by Senators Kerry and Lieberman. Yes, it would have a lower economic impact than the bill that's currently passed by the House. However, I warn you, it'll be a camel's nose under the tent, so the lame-duck Congress that we're going to create in November will dare then, by amendment, to bring that legislation up to what was passed in the House last year. Don't be fooled by these scaled-down attempts. So sure, isn't it all about the environment and the climate? Not really. It's all about transfer of control from the individual to the government, regardless of the impact on the American economy, and my friends, we saw it before, regardless of the will of the people. Essentially, cap and trade is no more than a false promise based on a disputed science with the potential for destructive economic consequences and a devastating reduction in personal liberty. Now you know the truth. Question those who promote this dangerous legislation. Ask them to explain it. Have them defend it with fact-based data, not rhetoric. Then push back with your knowledge that it is all about control, and that if our government really wanted to lay out a path for energy independence, there are 5 simple steps. Tap all domestic sources of carbon-based fuel now to lower dependency on foreign sources. 2, promote the use of nuclear power. Goodness gracious, we invented it. Advance the existing and proven clean coal technology. We're right next to Pennsylvania. A lot of good people are working very hard on this subject. 4, build an infrastructure to accommodate the use of natural gas as a vehicle fuel. And finally, provide incentives, not punishments, to advance all forms of renewable and natural energy sources. It's as simple as the healthcare debate. We didn't need 2,700 pages. We could have done it in 1 page with 3 simple insurance reforms. It's the same thing about energy and the environment. It's time, my fellow patriots, to push back and not allow any more control to be taken from American citizens. And why is that? It's very simple. We are a people of liberty and need to remember that liberty, our liberty, is only as secure as the next election. We are a people of liberty, born of liberty, who bled for liberty, who sacrificed for liberty, and who hold liberty more sacred than life itself. We are a people of faith, who believe in American exceptionalism. We believe it is real and distinct among nations. We understand that humankind without a free United States would perish from the world as we know it. We are a people of individual strength, who when united can never be conquered, who believe that the individual is the highest element of society, and who believe in the sustainability of freedom that can only come from self-reliance. We are a people of history and knowledge who recognize tyrannical threats of all kinds, particularly those from within, and who have the unwavering will to overcome these threats. We are a people of liberty who are ready to seek the true leaders from among us, who will follow those leaders in pursuit of liberty. We are a people of liberty united in common cause for the preservation of freedom for ourselves, our children, their children, and for generations to come. We are people of liberty.